Namaste, everyone. Welcome. As you can tell, not feeling so hot. I've been unplugged since after the event last night. The Clear the Path event. About 10 minutes prior, I started a major ascension detox, which is from a lot of things, including being heavily activated during the event. It's all good though. I'm going to continue resting. I started to get this really emotional download coming in around things that I've been thinking a lot about and feel very important to share, feel very called to share. And I was asking Spirit, does it need to be this minute? Because I would really like to go to sleep. But I am being called to do this now. So hopefully you can hear me and receive me. I'm going to, because of how I'm feeling and how this is flowing through, I'm going to do some clear conscious channeling is how I refer to it. I know that's usually referred to just as conscious channeling. Essentially, I'm just going to be with my eyes open. It's going to look like I'm talking to you as if I'm already talking to you. And this is ultimately how all of us channel, even when we don't realize that we're channeling. And that's ultimately where my clear cognizance, my clear knowing is coming in and bringing in information. And what I do is I allow myself to go into a state where I do not filter what comes through. And I simply say what is coming through from the consciousness, from source. And this is probably coming through right now, not only because I've been thinking about it, because it's something that needs to be talked about, but because in this perceived weakened state of the physical, the intuition blast off. So hopefully you can hear me through my coughing, probably nose blowing. I just don't have the energy to go in a trance channeling, which would probably feel really great right now. But they're having me really stay grounded in this. So with that said, let's talk about the discernment between contracts, agreements, and constructs. We're going to be talking a lot about family. We're going to be talking a lot about schooling. We're going to be talking a lot about career paths. We're going to be talking a lot about society in general. We're going to be talking about all sorts of layers of relationships. Galactically, on the soul level, we often can talk about contracts, soul agreements. There's not a lot of talk about constructs. When we talk about earthly things, the 3D being here on this planet, we talk about contracts, agreements, and constructs. And there's a lot more constructs, contracts. To begin, there is no right or wrong, better than or less than, from the perspective of source in the discernment of contracts, agreements, and constructs. They all have their place within their creation, and they are honored as creation within. They all provide lessons, understanding, overstanding. That is profound. Many things can be within contracts and agreements, or contracts and constructs, or all three at the same time. And it may be like, how can that possibly be? Well, let's get into the discerning. Contracts, something that's talked a lot about in the 3D, right? Contracts of even having a contractor, right? We even have a profession that is within this. Linguistically, we have contracts for development, contracts for partnerships, contracts for exchanges, contracts for perceived contracts for marriages. We're going to talk about that. Sometimes there are actual contracts within marriages and other partnerships. Contracts within programs and business. Contracts is another word that could be used for agreements that feels less loving, more pressured, and more stressful. Doesn't mean it's better than or less than. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It simply means that contracts are something that we tend in our society, in our humanity, to hold on to. And we're ultimately choosing this stress, this pressure around something and giving kind of a negative vibe, as opposed to something that could be more feeling optimistic, could be feeling more wonderful, could be feeling totally consensual and exciting. Now, contracts are things that are to be upheld, as are agreements and constructs from a perspective, perhaps many perspectives. Contracts are not the future. Contracts are something that is created for stability. And the moment that humanity realizes how destabilizing that is, contracts will be eliminated. Contracts have been teaching us a lot about ourselves, teaching us about things that we want, things that we don't want, how to actually negotiate, how to speak up for ourselves, how to ask for what we need, how to be accountable, how to be responsible, how to function in a society based around exchange, especially monetary exchange. So contracts have taught us a lot about ourselves in the human experience on a soul level. Contracts have really brought us an incredible amount of awareness, and yet bring us into a space where we do not feel the success of a contract unless it goes through and all goes just so. But you stress out and feel pressure all the time until the contract is through. Is that how you want to live your life? This is what they're asking. Agreements. Agreements have a much more agreeable feeling, right? The emotion, the sensation, even in the physical, upon saying agreement, to me personally speaking, is consensual. It feels loving. Now, again, on a galactic source level, even, there is not an emotional aspect to these words. It is only from the human experience that we experience these emotions. Agreements are a more high frequency in terms of emotional experience word than contracts. Agreements come with less pressure. They come with more intentional love. Agreements come from people coming together to win, to be happy, to make something come together, to make something happen the best. An agreement is something that everyone wants everyone to have what they want. So when we are in agreement, we have everything. Excuse me. Everything that we want. We're going to make it through this channeling, I'm telling you. They said it couldn't wait, so it's going to happen. Okay. Agreements. It's a choice for humanity to shift purely into a state of agreements. Agreements are a near future. Agreements are possible now. Agreements are now. There are agreements that are happening now. And we also have a near future where contracts are no longer and agreements are taking place, ultimately raising the frequency of all of humanity. Because what will be coming from a consciousness of coming together and doing everything together. Community will be coming from a consciousness of everyone wins. Will be coming from a consciousness of everyone has what they want and what they need. Right? That unconditional love that I talk about all the time. Right? So that is the discernment of agreements and contracts. So even when you ask yourself, when you place your hand on your heart, I happen to have my left hand on my solar plexus actually, and you think about contracts and agreements, I think it actually makes so much sense that my left hand would naturally go to the solar plexus, right? Because there's so much about power dynamics in contracts and agreements and constructs. So when you say contracts, where does that resonate? How does that resonate for you? For me, I feel it right up my leg. Like right here. And in my heart. And it feels like pressure. Hold on. It feels like pressure. And that doesn't feel good. I don't like to feel pressure. You know, I used to live under this narrative that I worked well under pressure. I've released this. I invite you to release that as well. It's a phrasing that does not serve. Because now I play with love, freedom, and ease. Does that feel better? Yeah. So coming back here, saying agreements. Where does that feel? Whoa, that was a huge shift for me. I felt a deep, deep, deep blast of warmth from my my left palm chakra right into my solar plexus. Did anyone just see that? Did anybody just see that spirit just... Actually, it was from the other side. Sorry, because you're all seeing this opposite of me. Let's try that again. This one? No. It went that way, sort of. You saw it, right? It happened. That was awesome. Anyway, someone's going to have to go back to the replay. I'm going to have to check that out. That happens all the time. I have all sorts of spirits coming through. Just confirmation that this is the message that needs to come through right now. Boyle Julie. Oh, you tagged. Thank you. Namaste. Satori with Abby. Welcome. Sorry, I was ignoring the chat a little bit because I'm channeling and I don't want to get distracted, but I'll be back to the chat in a bit. So, agreements feel better, right? What happened for you when you did this and you said contracts, agreements? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to know what your experience was. Now, in terms of constructs, that is the most emotionally heavy, yes. It is perhaps like, what, I don't know, it's a big buzzword right now. And it needs to be a buzzword right now for us to deconstruct. Constructs are contracts that impact everyone. And they impact some people more than others in ways that we perceive to be positive or negative. They impact our circumstances across the board. Constructs are something that need to be deconstructed on a mass level. In order for the collective to actually shift construct, it needs to shift its consciousness and make the actions that are in line with that. So if we wish to get rid of, say, the gender construct, we all need to align our actions and our beliefs with that in order to actually completely deconstruct gender. This goes for any construct. See even how my throat chakra is more aggressively activated with constructs. Now, if we take our right hand to our heart, our energetic focus to our heart, and our left hand or our energetic focus to our solar plexus, and we say constructs, where do you feel that? Constructs. That's very interesting. I didn't have an expectation, but I was not imagining that. So it was very spread to various areas. I immediately got nauseous in my stomach. I felt a lot of it up at my spine, coming up here to the shoulders. This is where a lot of us talk about pressure and feel our tension and our stress. All the way up to the neck area, and then kind of here. This is where a lot of us hold a lot of our tension as well. I'm even feeling headache now. I didn't even have a headache. Even with how I'm feeling right now, I didn't have a headache before. Now I feel headache pressure over the eyebrows and over the head. And when I feel this way, I tend to find myself rubbing my head or rubbing at my temples. So constructs has a very physical embodiment. Right, a physical embodiment that doesn't feel good. How did constructs feel for you? How does it feel for you when you think about the constructs that you're in and how it impacts your life? This feels so good right now. it's going to take us all to shift these constructs. Now, getting rid of constructs is generational. Getting rid of contracts is galactic. What I'm hearing is that it's actually beneficial galactically for us to still hold contracts. That is still something that they are doing testing around, and we still have a lot that we're learning around. So it is going to be a little while until we get rid of contracts and replace it fully with agreements. That does not mean that you cannot have more agreements now. You can even change it in the phrasing. Towards the second half of 2023, I started to change my language around contracts. And I started to talk about contracts more so as agreements. Because I don't want to have contracts. I want to have agreements. The more agreements we have, the easier and faster we will rid of contracts and deconstruct constructs, because contracts and agreements uphold constructs. See, even agreements, even though they feel better, they can still uphold constructs. Nose. One sec. We're back. Oh, God. Can't hear really anything right now. Hopefully you can hear me and I'm talking loud enough, or maybe I'm talking really loud, in which case I'm super sorry and you should just lower the volume for sure. You're welcome to anyway. Definitely not should. Should I let go of I'm leaving shoulds in 2022. Much like contracts. So the more and faster that we get agreements on board in a consciousness, the faster we will deconstruct constructs and contracts. Will be less needed, less necessary. Because believe it or not, contracts are so we can learn agreements, and agreements are going to be what helps us to actually rid of contracts and rid of and deconstruct constructs. So it was actually a really brilliant structure, another word for a construct, that was decided upon galactically. Now, since we're already on the galactic subject, galactically speaking, contracts are something that, again, there's no emotion on the contracts, agreements, and constructs. So these are simply seen as sort of like tools and experiences from a very different perspective. So as a result, they're looking at the cause and effect, and they're attempting to figure out what makes the most sense. Now, on a soul level, collectively, we often say that we have contracts or agreements. And contracts often can create a feeling of, like we've said, pressure. So if you have a soul contract, especially if you identify with spirituality, that can feel very daunting. It can also feel very empowering and authentic. There's a lot to be learned from to giving your all in a human experience. And so that is what is occurring there on a soul level. Now, the soul is so powerful, it can shift that contract all the time. It can even shift it into an agreement. by the human experience and aspect coming into an alignment and congruence authentically with the soul. And that brings it into a state of agreement. So ultimately, you can look at these as states of experience, not so much stages. Even though it may seem like these were stages to get to a new level, it does bring you to a new level if you wish to look at it in a human way from that perspective. However, that brings some element of achievement, and that's not really what it is. It's simply a growth and expansion. Agreements on a galactic level are of design of the Galactic Federation and are of true desire, because again, everyone wins. In short, for those who are not familiar, the Galactic Federation is made up of many different species that are all around the galaxy and beyond, that are coming together to bring unconditional love through to everywhere. And essentially, they do a mass governing of everything and making sure that, everything's all right. Constructs only exist galactically when there is an imbalance among a species that is incredibly advanced and ultimately has like what we would look at almost like anarchy in a hierarchical way, because a lot of these don't have that of the upper dimensions. They don't necessarily have needs for that. It's not how they refer to it or how it actually feels to them or functions. So that's all I'm going to bring through right now. Galactically, I'm actually asking them because I realized how long I've already been going. I don't know how long I'm going to get to go for, and we still need to talk about families and schools and professions and relationships. So let's get going. Schools, schooling, education is a construct. Yeah, education has been a very interesting growth, introspection, and excitement for the soul, for the collective. We do a massive amount of expansion on a moment-to-moment basis by what we deem as education. What it can be looked at is actually a remembrance that is being passed on and transmitted from human to human to human. And this is done so typically through books, digital methodologies, using the voice, signing, any number of different ways of communication. Education is information that is being communicated. That's beautiful. That's beautiful, right? However, that's been mistranslated a lot because we have not all been educating the same way. We haven't all had the same education. And in humanity, through constructs surrounding education, the majority of us have been educated with a lot of misinformation that has created a lot of actions that have caused a lot of pain, and also a lot of learning and expansion. We're at a point right now where education is being questioned more than ever. The younger generations are going to have an entirely new way of developing education for the future generations. That's going to be one of the more challenging constructs for humanity to deconstruct. By doing this, we will have the awareness that will allow us to awaken many, 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 many more people. There's going to be a lot of discussions of people talking about the things that haven't been talked about at large, right? So this is something that's happening now. We've already started to deconstruct education because we're talking about fact checking more. We're talking about misinformation. We're talking about the importance of speaking the truth and speaking facts. We're talking about how all truths are true. We're talking about all sorts of things around education. There's been a lot there, and there's a lot more that's coming. That's all they wish to bring through now. When it comes to business career paths, there's contracts, agreements, and constructs. The most successful are agreements. When there is a complete soul alignment, when there is authenticity and joy and benevolence and productivity and providing, that is when agreements are thriving in career paths and business professions. Contracts are most used right now in these lanes, and these contracts are creating a lot of tension in the collective. And this tension in the collective is actually making it that much more challenging for us to progress forward. In fact, it's creating a lot of blocks in deepened intimacy because you're not communicating very well. Now, here's the good news is that technically, as of yesterday, Mars, after quite a long while, went direct. So productivity and a lot of ways of communicating around things that we actually want and how to take steps is going to it's already getting better, right? Because I'm feeling not great physically at all. But I'm here channeling hard and strong, easy and strong. Now, constructs when it comes to business, career paths, professions, capitalism, corporate. Corporate comes from capitalism. Now, again, there is no right or wrong, better than, less than of any of the contracts, agreements, and constructs. This simply created experiences that the human experience on a soul level desired to grow. And a lot of structures have been put into place that are making it very challenging for a lot of people to thrive because there are more contracts and constructs as opposed to agreements in these lanes. As we shift into more agreements, we are going to find ourselves into a place where we will actually end up bartering, and that is the future. See, you might be like, well, bartering and trading was the past. It is also our future, because bartering and trading is not even how we're going to be looking at it. We're going to be looking at it as sharing. And we're going to be sharing with our passion and our love and our excitement. Because we're all going to be doing exactly what we want to be doing. We're going to be exactly who we want to be. We're going to have all of our needs met. All of our desires are going to be met. Things are just going to be so easy. We're not even going to need contracts, agreements, and constructs. We're going to have other ways of energetically discussing things linguistically. Right, thinking about even the future of being more perhaps telepathic. At that time, will we use the same language, right? A lot of these species are telepathic. They're not using the same words. They're communicating ideas, thoughts, and feelings much different because they're doing so at a faster rate. So thinking about the construct of time, the illusion, something that has been so valuable for humanity and our growth and expansion. and keeping us on a path and a track from our perspective is pretty genius. What do you think about it? Business, career paths, professions will be much easier and enjoyable when everyone is allowed to do and be exactly what they want. Thank you, AC. AC, what are you doing awake right now? Oh, you must be back. You must be back West Coast. Following me so far, everyone? Okay, now let's come into the big one. Relationships. Let's start with family. This is one that I've been thinking about a lot, and it's funny because I've not been able to channel about family in a while. I actually have a really powerful channeling. Okay, yes. No. Well, we're both West Coast. It is late, yes. I'm pretty sure they woke me up just to get like ready for this. So yes, keeping it going. So family. I've been thinking a lot about family, but I haven't been able to channel about family in a long time. And I have a very powerful channeling about family that actually is public. You can go to the Trannabischi YouTube and you will be able to actually watch that channeling. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's a Chrysanthemy channeling, and it's a very, very interesting channeling on family. And honestly, I haven't watched it in a long time, so I'm curious if what comes through now has any relation to that. Ultimately, family is a construct that is filled with agreements and contracts. Family is a construct that is built on agreements and contracts. Here's the how, why, what, all that. So constructs in this regard, right? Why is it a construct? It's a construct, right? Remember from earlier in channeling, in this channeling, the constructs are mass. So it's something that is believed in on a mass conscious level. We all believe in family. We're all impacted by family. Regardless of what our family dynamics have been, there is a general place of importance that is large enough on a collective conscious level that we all put a lot of attention here, right? Why? It kept us alive. Think about it. Let's like go way back to like when we were in caves. Think about during wars. Think about revolutions. The times of challenge are when we turn to our families. So, right, going back to the beginning, constructs, agreements, and contracts, none of them are better than or less than. There's nothing right or wrong with them. They are, they have been, they won't always be. We'll likely look at a different way of communicating family as our collective ascends into our next phase. In the meantime, we have the dynamic of family that we have. And some of us love that dynamic that we currently have, and some don't. In families that are happy and healthy and balanced, there are more agreements than contracts. There may not even be contracts. The agreements are allowing freedom. They're allowing everyone to have what they want. They're allowing everyone to have a voice. They're allowing everyone to have a perspective. And they're allowing everyone to leave feeling heard and seen. And everyone comes together to make it happen. Contracts in a family create tension, frustration, arguing. If you go into a marriage from the perspective of it's a contract, you're bringing the energy of a contract into your marriage. If you go into your marriage within it's an agreement, you're bringing the energy of agreement into your marriage. Again, not better than or less than, simply makes your experience, and you get to choose and shift. You can still shift this perspective within your marriage if you have been feeling like you've been in more of a contract. And it would be interesting to see, how does it shift your marriage? If you have a happy marriage and you went into your marriage with a contract and you shift it into the concept of a concept of an agreement, a perspective of an agreement, is it even like better than ever? What could that feel like? What could that be like for you to have the marriage of your dreams? Now, is marriage a construct? It's a human construct. It's not a construct galactically. Not across the board. Now, the way that relationships are going to change over the next several decades is going to be into spaces that allow for more freedom, allow for more openness, allow for more honesty, allow for more intention, allow for more loyalty. They're going to be more empowering. They're going to be beneficial. They're going to be healthy and safe. They're going to be consensual and exciting. This is going to come from less contracts and more agreements. The way that we relate to one another is what makes us human. So know that you get to choose in every moment what feels good for you, to be within contracts, agreements, or constructs. And what agreements and contracts and constructs are you entering? Which ones are you in right now? You get to rewrite them. Your soul contract, you get to rewrite that as many times as you want, because you have free will. You're God, divine, universe, source, what? All. You are a co-creator. You're divine. So use your free will to decide, how do you want to discern between contracts, agreements, and constructs? Which ones do you want to live by? What is serving you? And which ones do you want to leave behind? What if 2023 was the year, the moment of transforming contracts into agreements and deconstructing constructs? What if 2023 was a year of unconditional love? I leave you with this, my friends. I thank the Light Collective for shining through this evening. I need to get some major rest. I love you unconditionally. Sit with all of this, or don't. keep what resonates and leaves the rest. Namaste.